Welcome to the APSA Informatics and Telemedicine Committee overview of resources and tools to augment your practice. Informatics and telemedicine were formerly a grudging nod to the increasing technology-driven world. Now, these tools are a lifeboat, rescuing us and our practices, and even this meeting, by permitting us to share essential information with each other and allowing us to see our patients in this forever changed practice landscape. Today, we are pleased to present a panel that will walk you through the new APSA website, help inspire you to create and devour visual abstracts, increase your use of Twitter to drive your brand, and how to tie it all together to digest the educational and practice support content that APSA has to offer. Before we get started, I wanted to thank my predecessors, Drs. Todd Ponsky and Ben Nwome, who spearheaded many of these efforts on behalf of you, our members. And now, Dr. Francoise Lux from the Hasbro Children's Hospital and Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island.
I'm a little bit self-conscious about telling you how the internet works, but here goes. Back in 2014, APSA realized that the website was antiquated, clunky, and poorly utilized. A web redesign committee was formed to make the site less about us and more about patients and families. Well, that didn't age too well, and 4 years later, the new site was already obsolete. By then, the APSA leadership realized that we needed a better home base for our members and for our trainees, a way to offer them education and resources. At the same time, we did not want to lose our window to the public, and we needed to show APSA's place in the world as the organization was becoming more engaged, whether in global surgery, gun control, advocacy, or now with the pandemic. By 2018, of course, a lot had changed. Social media had exploded on the scene. More and more people were accessing the web on the go, and APSA was finalizing several learning and CME initiatives like the Not a Textbook and Expert. On April 15th of last year, just in time for the 50th anniversary, the new site was launched. The homepage of the APSA website is inclusive, both useful for us, its members, and for the public. Patients and families have a direct link to general information through one of the large block menus or through the header menu. From there, they can access a large number of pages related to specific conditions and find a pediatric surgeon. For APSA members, the site is intuitive, whether you want to find another member, find APSA-specific information like committees, find resources and tools for your practice, look for articles and research projects, or look for educational materials such as this annual meeting or CME resources. The website is a central hub for all things APSA. It includes the brilliant quality and safety toolkit that you heard about a few weeks ago from the Surgical Quality and Safety Committee, literature reviews and social media, and you'll hear all about this from Allison, and the expert and not a textbook site, which is rapidly becoming the absolute authority on pediatric surgery. So the initial goal of the new website is there, to offer a resource for patients and families, and at the same time to be a home for all APSA members. It does, however, exclude other pediatric surgeons who are not APSA members, as well as trainees and general surgeons. The Pediatric Surgery Library, however, does this. It is the home of not a textbook, expert, and a growing number of pediatric surgical resources. The combined web pages of the APSA site and the Pediatric Surgery Library offers the best of both worlds and all things pediatric surgery. And of course, both sides have easy access to each other. The website has a so-called receptive design. The layout automatically adapts to the shape of your window from landscape to portrait, and from desktop to tablet and to phone. On mobile devices, the layout is vertical and scrolling is kept to a minimum. Because there is no real estate to display multiple menus, there is the hamburger. The hamburger displays menus, while the accordion displays the submenus and the content. Most importantly, it remains a living document that requires regular updates and regular improvements and needs your inputs, Just like in the best of restaurants, the menu must be constantly improved. Finally, there's no I in web team, but there's definitely we in web. And I want to acknowledge mostly Megan Comerford and the Kellen Group, as well as the members of the website subcommittee. Thanks.
Good evening. Tonight we'll be serving up some information appetizers on social media called visual abstracts. So what is a visual abstract? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like, a visual summary of the information contained in an article's abstract. I first heard about VAs from Andrew Ibrahim in 2016. I think it's important to know what a visual abstract is not. It's not a substitute for reading the article, and it doesn't contain all of the details within the article. So what are its goals? Well, I really think of it like a movie trailer. It helps a reader decide which articles they're going to read. About 50 journals to date have adopted the VAs, including the New England Journal of Medicine, as well as the Journal of Pediatric Surgery. So why create a visual abstract? Well, it increases your article dissemination. Ibrahim et al. In 2017 published a study that's a prospective case control crossover study. They looked at 44 original research articles, and they posted these either with a title only or a title with a visual abstract. And all of these tweets had a link to the article. They found that when posted with a visual abstract, the impressions or number of times a tweet was seen increased 7-fold. The retweets also increased, and this is the number of times a tweet was shared. Finally, the link to the article was clicked 2.7-fold higher. So you can see that the VAs increased the article dissemination and impact of their research. APSA has been sharing visual abstracts for the monthly articles of interest on our Twitter account, Facebook, and website. We've even shared visual abstracts for top 10 articles and abstracts at our annual meetings. About 70 VAs have been shared since December of 2017. And I'd like to thank all of our VA creators. So today is not about how to create a VA, but rather how to share a VA on social media. And given the time, we'll just focus on Twitter. I think tagging is one of the most important things to do when posting a VA on Twitter. It can help increase the number of times your VA is seen. We use the @ sign to either tag a person or an organization. It's important to tag things like the article's authors, the author's institution, the journal publishing the article, any associated organizations such as APSA or the specific Department of Pediatric Surgery. It's also important to think about thought leaders on the topic. If they're tagged, they can create a productive discussion about the article. Hashtags are another way to increase the viewership of your VA and therefore your article. This uses the hash symbol or the # and it collects similar content. You can search for this or follow it on social media. Hashtag examples include things like conferences, such as our virtual 2020 APSA conference, or a cause or a movement, like the Benji Brooks Task Force, which has the hashtag #BeLikeBenji. I think it's also important to think about events. Most authors and journals will post their VA at the time of press, but you should think about reposting your VA at national and international meetings or when your topic is discussed in the news. Let's look at a few examples. In example 1, this is our APSA Twitter account posting a link to the article, using a hashtag for visual abstracts, and using a tag for the creator of the VA, Bethany Slater. In example 2, this shows a retweet. So APSA's Twitter account tagged one of the top 10 VAs and tagged the first author of this VA, Tinsley Anderson. She then retweets and shows several tags and hashtags, including our Department of Pediatric Surgery here at UT, a couple of authors, myself and Kojin Sao, the APSA Twitter account, and then the hashtag for the 2018 meeting. Finally, in example 3, Francois is showing another retweet, also using hashtags for visual abstracts, a tag for the journal in which this article was published, the Annals of Surgery, and retagging back the APSA Twitter account. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to more pediatric surgeons sharing their VAs on social media.
My name is Alex Peters. I'm a surgery resident at Weill Cornell in New York City, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about tweeting 101 and how to social media for APSA. So why use Twitter? Twitter is an advocacy platform, a networking platform, and a platform for dialogue with people around the world. Over 40% of adults have smartphones. There are 330 million Twitter users worldwide, over 50 million active in the US every day. And it enables real-time dialogue around the world that is both instantaneous and asynchronous. In healthcare, people use Twitter for conferences, for journal clubs, for research collaborations, scholarly dissemination of their work, and medical education, and all sorts of other things. So how do I get started on Twitter? Well, go to twitter.com, sign up, pick a handle that's easy to remember, at Alex Peters, at Dr. Peters, at Dr. Peters MD, whatever you like. Put it on your business cards, put it on your slides, sort of start to get your handle out there. Add a picture of yourself, make sure to smile or take an action shot, and put a short bio in your profile. Then send out your first tweet and tag it with hashtag #myfirsttweet. This may seem like a little thing, but lots of people follow this, and it gets you a chance to introduce who you are. Even Chester the dog, with his first tweet, got 3,000 likes. So let's talk about the anatomy of the tweet. Well, the tweet should be concise, comprehensive, involve tags and hashtags that are topical, and bring them to people's attention that follow those hashtags or people that you want to see your tweet. Leave food for thought, entice responses. Give visuals that really drive the eye towards your tweet, people to dive deep into. And then tag the people you want to see it, tag the people you want to respond to it, or for whom you think it's relevant. Then get a sense of what impressions are you making, what engagements are you making, how are people responding to your tweet? So you can think about what was effective, what wasn't, how can I better engage with my followers and people out there. Now, how do I tweet daily? So first, stay up to date. Let your followers know what's going on in your world and in the world and things that you want to share with them. Provide new content for people. Add in a personal story or an opinion when it's possible. And then partake in Twitter chats, engage with others, tweet at high-level accounts, and engage with people. Surgeons on Twitter have started enormous movements like the hashtag #ThisIsOurLane movement against gun violence, as well as the hashtag #ILookLikeASurgeon movement for women surgeons, to raise awareness about issues that people face. What about at events? So at events are a great time to use Twitter. You tweet speakers verbatim, comment on them, take a picture to increase engagements, tag the speaker and ask questions, and include the conference hashtag. So in this case, hashtag APSA 2020, but engage speakers, engage other conference attendees, and start dialogues around the audience. And what about how not to tweet? So use hashtags, but not too many, roughly 2 to 4 per tweet, so that people can kind of focus their eye on what your topic is. And then be grammatically conscious, make sure you spell check. Always remember that every tweet is permanent. Even if you delete it, it was out there and can't be taken back. That shouldn't be intimidating, but it's something to keep in mind. So finally, engage others, reply, retweet, like, make sure to follow APSA surgeons, hashtag saving lifetimes, hashtag APSA 2020, and get out there and just test it out. It's a lot of fun. Thank you all so much. A big thanks to Dominique Vervoort, who's a social media wizard, who gave me some insight on this.
Good evening, everyone. Just going to follow up on talks on Twitter and the website on how we can engage in some of these tools in a safe and responsible way. So this, I think, is a very helpful 12-word adage for surgeons to consider when they're interacting with social media. Quite simple. It's bumper sticker level stuff. Don't lie, don't pry, don't cheat, can't delete, don't steal, don't reveal. And I think the topics we're going to delve into will keep coming back to these simple points of social media behavior. 2 very excellent resources that you can refer to are the American College's statement on ethical use of social media by surgeons, as well as this excellent publication by the Resident and Associate Society of the college that goes over a lot of the topics we're going to talk about. So with regard to the surgeon-patient relationship in social media, I think it's important to understand that social media is not for patient communication. This is never meant to supplement the tools in your electronic health records like MyChart and things like that for patient communications. Even private forums, private messaging, direct messaging is not an exception to this. And one of the ways you can avoid this is avoiding personal friend requests. And we'll talk a little bit about setting up a professional profile different from your personal profile in another slide or two. But recognize HIPAA still applies to social media, and you have to think a little bit about the sum of information that's available to readers. So even though you may not reveal protected health information, if you're discussing a very famous case about a trauma or something like that that was discussed in the news, and you're describing that case, people can put two and two together and figure out the patient you're discussing. So you need to be mindful of those things. When you're educating people online, you want to think about the public and not individual patients. You know, you're educating a large group of people, not an individual patient, giving them precise medical advice. So you really want to focus on connecting with a broad audience and not an individual person. If you're using tools and adjuncts like photos, images, videos, you want to be mindful of copyright and what's in the public domain versus what's private. Remember, don't steal, per our little bumper sticker phrase. And even in professional forums that are devoted exclusively to surgeons discussing complex cases, perhaps be mindful of privacy considerations and those HIPAA concerns. Many of us are employees, whether of small practices or larger hospitals, and those organizations may have policies on social media, and so they may be very happy that you have a huge social media following, but if you're posting a lot of content and some of it's controversial, that may actually adversely affect your own employability down the road. Additionally, you can have unintended negative consequences of the things you post, especially if you're friends with a lot of people who you work with online and you're sharing posts or perhaps stuff that's of a political nature, and that can make for an awkward work environment when you come back to work. So be careful of who you're friends with, even if it's on a personal level with your colleagues. You want to avoid threads that have conflict of interest. It's one thing to advertise your practice and cool new techniques that you do. It's another thing to promote a product or a device that you may have a stake in, and you have to make sure you declare bias in that. Overall, professionalism standards apply throughout social media. You want to avoid derogatory statements against other colleagues or even patients who may have left you a bad review. But there is no delete forever on the internet. You can't delete. And you want to be supportive of your colleagues. They may have not had the benefit of listening to this fabulous 4-minute talk on social media safety. So if you notice that they post anything that's not quite appropriate or might be controversial, you want to be mindful of those things. When you engage in social media, probably the best thing you can do is just to create a profile that's completely professional and doesn't mix any of your social stuff, any of your private life details and family photos, and this will help you stay out of a lot of the trouble that we talked about. Another helpful piece of advice is regularly auditing your online presence. Google yourself every once in a while. Make sure that there's nothing up there that's completely off base. I mean, you can't always correct everything, but simple things like a wrong email address or an outdated phone number or address, you can probably correct pretty easily. In general, pause before you post. If you consider, taking a deep breath before you send that last thing online, it might keep you out of a lot of trouble. That's pretty much all I have today. Refer to those resources from the American College. I think they're very helpful, and we hope you stay safe out there. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. This is Alex Casar, and I'm a pediatric surgery research fellow at Cincinnati Children's and a general surgery resident at UT Health San Antonio. I'm here today to talk about the effects of an automated social media strategy for knowledge dissemination for the Journal of Pediatric Surgery. Our only disclosure is that our team manages JPS social media. Increasing number of scientific publications have made it difficult for individuals to stay up to date on the latest literature in their fields. It has also made it harder for journals to keep their readers engaged, as they are now flooded with a global information overload. During this time, social media has emerged as a tool for physicians to engage in meaningful academic conversations and collaborations, medical education, and knowledge dissemination. For the past 2 years, our team has been responsible for managing the social media presence for the Journal of Pediatric Surgery. During this time, we have utilized active management strategies, including creating visual abstracts and videos, and passive management strategies, like automated posts published using the Social Pilot marketing platform. All articles published in the Journal of Pediatric Surgery are delivered to the Social Pilot platform via an RSS feed. Once there, article titles, links to the full articles, and relevant images are extracted automatically and placed in a publishing queue. These posts are then released on schedule to our Twitter and Facebook pages. For this study, we perform a retrospective review of social media analytics for all posts published for the Social Pilot platform during a period of 6 months from March to August 2019 to examine content reach and user engagement. A total of 165 automated posts amassed over 500,000 impressions and led to nearly 10,000 article views during the study period. This roughly translates to each post being seen by close to 3,000 users and getting 60 article views. Facebook had greater overall impact. However, when adjusted by number of followers, Twitter surpassed its performance. Posts were distributed evenly by day of the week, and there were no significant differences in impact related to the day of posting. Posts were also categorized as tables, black and white figures, color figures, and photographs or clinical images by the type of multimedia they contained. Photos were the most impactful content format on Facebook, with significantly higher reach, engagement, reactions, shares, and link clicks. This pattern was not reproduced on Twitter. It is important to note, however, that this cannot be solely attributed to the popularity of the content format, as platforms have proprietary algorithms that preferentially display certain types of content. However, recognizing this effect is useful in planning future social media posts. Content topic had the highest effect on post performance, with colorectal surgery, esophageal atresia and tracheoesophageal fistula, and general pediatric surgery leading to higher reach, engagement, and article views. This may represent higher interest in these topics from our user base and/or more widespread impact in clinical practice. ECMO and CDH was the least popular content category. A disappointing finding in the study was the negligible volume of comments and shares over the 6-month period. This indicates that although successful in increasing dissemination and visibility of the articles, our campaign was unable to foster further online discussion among our audience members. In conclusion, our automated social media strategy was successful in increasing journal article views. However, user-created content, although more research-intensive, may represent an area of opportunity to enhance the dissemination of specific learning objectives, potentially increasing audience engagement. To put things into perspective, our visual abstracts reach an average of 7,400 users, lead to 100 journal article reviews, and have been presented even at journal clubs internationally. Thank you all for your time, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
So this is a great presentation. As I understand it, this is automated, correct?
Yes. The only portion, there's a portion that's not automated, but it's not for all of them. So sometimes one of our global cast people goes in and adds some hashtags to it, but other than that, no.
Yeah. So that was going to be into my question. Based on what you've learned, have you changed either your algorithm or your way of thinking to try to optimize not only views but also retweets? Certainly on Twitter, one of the things that you want to aim for is not only a lot of views but have it reproduced by others, and essentially the retweet rate would be very important. So optimization, for example, by adding hashtags, by posting it more than once. A number of news outlets do that. They post the same story 5 or 10 times during the course of a day because it's at some point it's going to be picked up. And have you looked at time of day because there supposedly are better times than others to post?
So for this one in particular, we did not look at time of day because it's automated, so they all come out at the same time. We have noticed in our non-automated content that things that come up earlier in the day do better than things that come out later in the day, regardless of how people share it and everything. So we've been trying to target the 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Period for posting so that it actually gets enough attention, sort of the morning people, and then it gets to the lunch people, and then it gets to the afternoon people, and then it gets to the night people. And that's sort of what it does. We do not repost the same exact post multiple times during the day, but what we've done is with our non-automated content is maybe we post one article was posted automatically, and we see that it had some critical message that we want to, share. So we might make another tweet that instead of just having the title and the link, has a little learning objective, a little teaching moment, and a picture. So that already does better than the automated post itself. Or we take that further and we make a video or we make a visual abstract. and those do way better. So that's the way we're doing this like repetitive spaced learning repetition, but it's not necessarily with the same automated posts.
Alex, that was a great presentation. And of course, the reason for doing this is to increase readership of the journal. And that was formerly limited to the people who got the journal and maybe somebody who was assigned a research project. Can you tell from your work how many, let's say, international members you're able to get, where the tweets are coming from, and are we expanding the readership of the journal?
So I don't have the latest numbers, but I put on my JPS social media hat and then switched to the Global Cast hat back and forth. But pretty much the issue we were having with the JPS social media and why it doesn't do as well internationally as the Stay Current or Global Cast social media is because even if people are clicking on the link, they tend to not have JPS memberships, so they still cannot see the full article. So they would get the paywall. So our international users, where most of the volume of interactions in the beginning and have faded out for this automated content, whereas for the manually created content, that's more free for all because we're putting out the message or we're putting out the learning Pearl, that is very, very heavily international.
Like Facebook and like others, when we're linked to an article to the Washington Post or the New York Times, and you link on it, you get the paywall.
Yeah, the abstract is available because it is part even of the RSS feed, so that is included in their free content. So they do get to see the abstract, but they don't get to more critically analyze the manuscript, article, journal article, whatever piece is being published.
Alex, thanks so much. That was a great paper and great work that you're doing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexander Gibbons from Akron Children's Hospital, and today I'm going to talk to you about the way that social media posts impact article views for the Journal of Pediatric Surgery, emphasizing these are not just clickbait. This is our team, and our only disclosure is that we are the JPS social media team. The digital revolution has transformed all aspects of our lives, particularly since the widespread adoption of smartphones in the mid-2000s. Companies that have failed to adapt to this changing environment and have remained too analog in this increasingly digital world, such as Blockbuster and Kodak, have gone the way of the dodo. Printed media is no exception to this trend. As you can see, there's been a sharp decline in newspaper circulation since the mid-2000s. And academic printed media is not immune by any means. Therefore, if we want to remain relevant, we have to adapt. One of the ways that we've adapted is by adopting a social media presence, both the Journal of Pediatric Surgery Facebook page, as well as a Twitter account. And on these accounts, we post both automated and curated content. The automated content is the focus of Dr. Kassar's presentation, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about our curated content with an active content management strategy. For these posts, we select an article and then create individualized content for that article, either a video review, such as this, or an infographic, such as the one seen here. And we wanted to see what influence these posts made on the article views on which they were based. Therefore, we performed a study where we looked at all of the posts made to our Journal of Pediatric Surgery Facebook page between August 2016 and August 2019. And then for each of those posts, we evaluated the reach, or how many people saw it, the number of times it was commented on, the number of times it was shared, and the number of times that the referring link was actually clicked by the viewer. We then obtained from Elsevier the article views in the Journal of Pediatric Surgery for those articles on which the posts were based in both the month before the post and the month after the post. What we found was that in the month prior to the post, there was an average of about 70 views for the article that month. However, after the social media post, we saw an increase to over 110 views that month. This represented an increase of over 50% for the article. When comparing the two types of social media posts, we found that both the video reviews and the infographics had a similar reach. However, videos generated a higher number of reactions, such as likes, had more comments, and were more likely to be shared. However, the infographics had a higher rate of click-through to the referring article. Additionally, the topic of the curated content played a role, as it influenced the reach, the number of times that the post was shared, and the number of times that the link was clicked. The three topics that had the greatest popularity were esophageal atresia and TEF, urology and gynecology, and thoracic surgery. In conclusion, we found that this active management strategy with curated content increases the article views for the referring article by over 50%. We found that videos seem to generate more discussion and sharing for the Facebook page itself, but the infographics seem to have a higher rate of click-through to the actual article. Regardless of the type of content, though, it's important to emphasize the importance of a continued social media presence for academic journals in order to remain relevant in this increasingly digital world. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Alex, that was superb. Probably an excellent companion article as well. I'm curious, how do you choose which of the journal articles to, quote, curate? Because that's going to clearly affect the interest level in a given topic. So how would you decide as you leaf through the journal that month what articles you're going to curate?
Yeah, definitely. And that is probably the main limitation for this strategy in general, is that there isn't a standardized approach to it. We kind of looked through the article for the month and picked out ones that, or looked through the issue for the month and picked out articles that we found personally interesting, but didn't have exact methodology for how we were going to do it. As we have gained more knowledge about who's viewing it and what they want to view, we have tried to tailor it a little bit more. In conversations that we've had with Dr. Powell about this very topic, we want to try to focus in more on what people don't know that they don't know. And so collaborating and seeing kind of what kind of knowledge gaps we have, like the PDC has been focusing on, picking out articles that are related to those knowledge gaps, or finding questions that people are more likely to miss on the questions that they get periodically. Those would be kind of, I think, a better methodology to pick out what to focus on for these curated content pieces.
It would seem that it would fit with many of APSA's goals if the chosen content were along the lines of, let's say, the clinical practice guidelines for a various problem. And I'm imagining and I'm asking that a basic science paper that talks about a new receptor that is duplicated at the end of an odd dyad is not going to be something that is going to get a lot of links and a lot of attention.
Right, and those ones are also not particularly interesting to us to present. So we haven't had a ton of basic science posts. So that's definitely one of our biases. We've had other people give guest videos on that topic. So we definitely have some, we know some people are interested, but that could definitely be a weakness and something that we could focus in on more. But also, you mentioned guidelines specifically, and some of our more popular infographics that Dr. Kassar has made have been on guidelines, and specifically those related to trauma.
I have a question about the infographics or visual abstracts. So they're obviously, they not only give the information, they also are recognizable as visual abstracts from JPS, and obviously that goes in parallel with the visual abstracts from APSA, which also has a very clear template, so you recognize not only the topic but where it's coming from. Who makes your infographics? Are you guys just one person? Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Kassar is our guru for the infographics and visual abstracts.
Any plans or ways to maybe not combine but work in parallel with the APSA visual abstract?
I think potentially focusing the visual abstracts that both sides or both groups make and helping cross-promote those as a collaboration would be a great way to kind of help with that. I know we've reached out in the past to try to get some of the visual abstracts from APSA, and definitely want to promote those both on the Stay Current app and these social media accounts.
But another thing that I was going to point out, independent of the visual abstracts, is this year, and again, it's not super peer reviewed because it's not published literature, but all the poster recordings for this virtual APSA are 2 minutes, which means it fits within the time limit even for Twitter. So that means that APSA has 120 something things that could be rolled out twice a week, and that gives you a whole year of content in 2-minute videos.
That's a great suggestion. I think that we're always looking for content, and you're right, that's a ready-made source of content for a full year. sort of like stocking up your freezer. Very well, Dr. Alex's, thank you very much. You've broadened all of our horizons. Thank you. We wouldn't have this opportunity if we were actually on a stage presenting this material, but you guys, my generation, and actually all of us, Francoise and David, our generation, people were in the lab working on molecules, and you guys are doing equally important work in a way that I think most of our membership doesn't think about. It's not part of the common language, and that's why I'm grateful for the abstracts. But I think you're doing something very important for our membership. So I want to thank you guys. I think it's great to have folks like you working, and eventually you will be our membership. But this is incredible what you've done, and I think we should all be very thankful.